Hello friends, in this video we are going to talk about communication. What is the meaning of communication, the process of communication, of course the various types of communication, formal, informal, and we are going to end with the barriers of communication and how to deal with these barriers. The word communication is derived from the Latin word communis, which means common understanding. Now it basically involves the movement of ideas, facts, emotions, views, feelings, all those things from one place to another. Let us now look at the various elements of communication which actually constitute the process of communication. Now for the process of communication to commence, it always begins with the sender. Now a sender is a person who has certain ideas or who has certain data in his mind which he wants to send it across to the other person, on whom we call as the receiver. Then you have the message. The message is the content of the information that he wants to send. Now that message could be with respect to, if I am talking about a formal organization, it could be with respect to one particular event, a task, an instruction, but whatever the content of that message is will constitute the element of message. The third element is the encoding. Now there is a message in the mind of the sender, but unless and until he puts across this message or he kind of formulates this message in a proper way such that he can pass it on to the next person, it is not possible for any other person, any other receiver to understand what is going on in the mind of the sender. Let me try to make it more simple to you. If suppose I want to give out certain information to you. Now if I am the sender and I have the message in my mind which says that today I am going to teach communication. Now that is a message. Now what is encoding? Encoding, that is the next element, basically involves whatever is there in my mind to formulate it or to encapsulate it in a form such that a person who is at the other end, who is at the receiving end, is able to take it. Now the message is there here in my mind and it has to go across, and the way in which it can be encapsulated will become the encoding. After the process of encoding, that means we have tried to understand whether we are going to use words, symbols, gestures, or all those movements. The next thing is the media. The media is nothing but a bridge that will facilitate the movement of the message from the sender to the receiver. Now this media could be in the form of audio visual, or it could be in the form of written communication, oral communication, verbal communication. But what media I am selecting to pass on the information? Now for example, in this particular case, in case of the video, I have chosen video as a medium to communicate with you regarding my ideas and my information. So that becomes media. The next step is decoding. Decoding is the manner in which the receiver is going to formulate, or he is trying to understand or perceive or trying to make out what exactly the content of the message is. Now when I told you about encoding, I said the message that is there in the mind of the sender is going to be encapsulated in the form of a particular tablet kind of a thing, in which you are going to prepare it so that you are sending it across. Now from that, what he is going to derive, the receiver is going to derive, that becomes decoding. Then you have the receiver. Receiver is a person to whom that communication is intended to. Now right from the sender to the receiver. Receiver is that person or probably those people to whom this communication is meant to be. Either it is directly or indirectly. The receiver is going to be at the end point of this entire communication process. Now unless and until the feedback or the next element in the process is complete, it is not considered that the entire process of communication is complete. If you can see at the drawing also there, you can see feedback is very important. Now feedback does not have to be profound in nature. It does not have to be always written, yes received or something like that. It can be something as simple as an acknowledgement to the message that has been sent by the receiver. It could be a mere head shake, a nod in the head, or of course when you're talking about formal communication, it has to be in the formal way or what is being expected in a formal kind of a setup. But nonetheless, when we talk about a feedback is just reassurance from the receiver that he has now got the message, he has got whatever the sender is trying to communicate. Another element in this entire communication process is what we term as noise. Noise is any hindrance or obstruction to the message that is being delivered from the sender to the receiver. Now, this is very important. When I say noise, it does not have to be any kind of noise, physical noise. Now, even the minutest of obstructions or hindrances. Now, it could be at any of the elemental level that you can see. Any of the levels that you are seeing there, it could happen at any particular point of time. For example, there are ambiguous symbols that are being used in communication process. The telephone connection is not proper. You have a receiver who is not attentive in accepting your communication. There is a decoding is faulty at that particular, the transmission is faulty. So there are many ways in which this particular message can be obstructed, or there could be a hindrance. There could be a hindrance for the message to go from the sender to the receiver. Once we have understood all these elements, if you can just look at the picture there, you will see that there is a communication process that happens, that is from the sender to the receiver, again back in the form of a feedback to the sender, and again we start the next cycle. Now we're going to study the importance of communication. When we are talking about a professional setup, there is a very important role that communication as a concept plays between the various levels, because it is the way in which probably all the channels or all the hierarchy levels or the entire organizational structure can communicate with each other. First, it acts as a basis of coordination. It acts as a basis of coordination because whatever the interrelationship that exists between two people, now either it could be with respect to the scalar chain, or it could be within a team, only through communication, and that too good communication, all the goals, objectives, whatever the necessary information is passed on. And with the passing on of this information, or by telling the goals, or by translating all the objectives of the organization, that is where you can actually start coordinating the efforts of individual towards a team and a unified effort. It helps in smooth working of an enterprise. It is very important for communication to be maintained at all levels. It is because any kind of interaction, of course, depends upon communication, and the manager who is there, manager, or probably if we term him as a superior, he can take control of the physical resources, the material resources, and he can bring about some kind of efficiency in the performance of all the people involved towards achievement of the objectives of an organization through proper communication. It acts as a basis of decision making. Now, only on the basis of communicating relevant information, decision making process can happen, and how imperative decision making is as a factor with respect to the growth of an organization. There are decisions to be made on a daily basis. There are decisions to be made at all levels with respect to the environment, with respect to the levels of management. So only and only by getting the relevant information through the process of communication, proper decisions and timely decisions can be made. Increases managerial efficiency. Now, if you understand the role of a manager, it is to pass instructions. He has to convey the goals of and the targets of the organization. He has to allocate jobs and responsibilities. He has to ensure that all the work is being conducted smoothly. He has to also appraise the performance of all the subordinates. So all these processes can be done efficiently and effectively through proper communication. And you should understand, it will also somewhere give an insight to what the manager's capacity is. It is, if the manager has got good control over his communication, then probably he can facilitate all these actions that I had discussed about. Promotes cooperation and industrial peace with effective, efficient and a two-way communication, wherein there is a tad bit of understanding between the sender and the receiver. There are many instances of conflicts, arguments which can be taken care of even before they become big issues. So it is only through process of communication, many times even you would have faced a situation wherein with little talk or trying to understand the other person's perception, we can avoid so many misconceptions and arguments that will unnecessarily delay the functions that have to be carried out in an organization. Establishes effective leadership. When we talked about leadership, we said that leader is a person who can influence the behavior of the follower. How do you influence the behavior? It is not only by the action that the leader does or performs, but it is also through the words or the way in which he communicates, or the way in which he or she is treating the follower, how effectively and how nicely they are able to put across their messages, that can establish effective leadership in any organization. And with that, it will boost the morale and provide motivation. Okay, fine. Whenever we are talking about financial motivation, incentives being given, yes, fair enough. You have financial incentives. But if you have to motivate a person on a continuous basis, on a daily basis, then what do? You have to utilize this method of communication, or the means of this particular concept, wherein you can constantly guide the person to perform, and you can actually influence the person to believe in himself or herself, and that can happen through effective communication. And that is why communication as such has got a lot of importance when we talk about a professional setup. There are various types of communication that exist within an organization. Broadly, they are classified into two, that is formal communication and informal communication. Formal communication is with respect to the official channels that has been designed in the organizational chart. Now, it can be written, it can be oral, it can be recorded, or and it filed also, for the purpose of later on you can, in case you want to revert back to those communication messages that has happened between probably at the same level or at the level of hierarchy channel, from the top level to the lower levels. Now, again, keeping this in mind, if you look at the communication, formal communication, there are again classified into two, that is vertical communication and horizontal communication. Vertical communication is all that the communication, or all those messages that are exchanged between a superior and a subordinate. Now, these could be instructions. Now, these could be any kind of reports, or any kind of communication that happens. And there are certain areas, of course, wherein even a subordinate can go back and talk to his superior. Even that communication could be for any kind of permissions, or any kind of grievances, or suggestions, or complaints, or all those things. But whatever happens through the vertical line of the scalar chain, that is known as the vertical communication. Then you have the horizontal communication, that is between all the members of a particular team, or probably it can happen between one division and another, or between all those people who are at the same level in an organization or in the organizational chart. Let us look at the types of communication network with respect to formal communication. If you look at the picture, you can see we begin with single chain communication, wherein the superior will pass on the information directly to the subordinate, and it goes in the form of a chain. That is, there is an A who is a superior, he'll pass the information to B, C, and subsequently it will go through the scalar chain. Then you have a wheel pattern which exists, wherein the superior, if you can see the diagram again, is A, who is there as a central point, and he is communicating to all others who are there in a circular fashion, in the form of a wheel. If you see, he is communicating with B, C, D, E, F, and so on. But he becomes a central point of communication. There is a circular communication wherein it starts with the superior, it goes through the entire channel, it goes through the entire process, the level, and then it comes back to the superior. So this kind of circular kind of a pattern that exists is known as the circular communication. The free flow pattern, if you see in this pattern, every person is allowed to communicate with every other person in this particular department or the team. This kind of network is, it facilitates a fast movement of messages from one person to another. And then you have an inverted V. Now, if you look at the diagram again, there is one person who is at the top level, that is A. He will communicate directly with the B, who is at the next level, and the third level in the scalar chain are C and D, who are placed. Now, B will communicate with both C and D. At the same time, even A being at the top level can communicate with C and D. So this becomes an inverted V, where the subordinate is allowed to communicate with his immediate superior and his superior's superior. Can you imagine spending 8 hours of your life in a professional organization wherein you have to be with a set of people who are probably not related to you, and only for the purpose of a professional outlook? Now, it is not possible for any human being to work in such a setup with respect to professionalism, thorough professionalism. Of course, it is required, it is mandatory, but it is not possible to become machines and leave your emotions out of the organization. Now, in order to cater to these emotions, or what we call as one of the needs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when we talk about belongingness and the social needs, there is something that also exists in an organization, and that becomes your informal communication. Now, informal communication is that communication which exists within a set of people, which is not with respect to any kind of formal or formalized kind of information being passed. This also exists. It also has a name which is called grapevine. More often than not, it is very difficult to detect who started this kind of grapevine. Now again, it is just the outlook, how you see it, whether you are going to see it in a positive way or a negative way. It is going to happen. It is bound to happen that there are people who are working in an organization will be communicating anything and everything which is not directly related to their task. It could be any kind of gossip, it could be any kind of unrelated matters also, or in discussing anything which is beyond the capacity of their professional requirement. Now what basically happens is, now it is up to the manager to see that whether he wants to utilize it in a positive way, so that he entrusts all the people who are there as a part of this grapevine network with something which can be used in a productive way towards the betterment of the organization, or he just keeps it as a gossip session. Now this again is very important. If you see any kind of formal setup, any kind of organizational structure, if you see, grapevine is it is going to happen. Nobody can stop it. But how you are going to use it, how the superior is going to use it, either to pass information, small information can be sent across through the network, which does not have to go through the process, which maybe does not have a very formal kind of approach. Also, what is the negative aspect of grapevine? It will spread rumors, and that too any information which may not be authentic, or at the same time which may kind of cause some kind of damage to the organization and the branding of the entire organization as such. I'm not going to talk about with respect to a particular any particular organization, but it may cause harm to its status. The various networks which exist within a grapevine are, if you look at the picture, there is a single strand wherein each communication happens between one person with the other in a proper sequence, and any informal communication. Then you have gossip, where a person will communicate with all all those whom he selects on not on a particular basis, they are non-selective basis, he will randomly choose. Then you have cluster. Now in this cluster, if you look at the picture also, there is one person who will probably discuss a particular point with his group, and there will be a member in that particular group who is also a part of another group. So he will go and pass on that information to that group, and then they become clusters wherein the information is being rotated. And finally, you have probability, in which there are chances because of probably with respect to the proximity where two people are sitting, or with respect to any kind of maybe they are commuting together, or all those proximity issues and everything, or maybe they are relatives who are there, maybe they are a part of two different departments, but nonetheless they are related. So there is a probability or a chance that one person will maybe communicate with a set of people. So that becomes your probability network in grapevine.
In any organization, it is not possible to have a smooth flow of communication from one channel to another, or from one hierarchy or one level to another. There exist certain barriers of communication. Let us now quickly learn about these various barriers. Semantic barriers. Semantics is that branch of linguistics that deals with the meaning of words and sentences. And in this particular case, the barriers are basically with respect to obstructions in the processing of encoding and decoding of the message into words or impressions. Many a times it so happens that there are certain there is a message, like we had already discussed, in our mind, and that is what we have to translate or encode it or encapsulate it in the form of a particular message. Now when there is a problem at that particular level, then we term it as semantic barriers. These may include badly expressed message due to inadequate vocabulary, usage of wrong words, or omission of the needed words. Many a times it so happens that there is an ambiguity with respect to the words also that use. You have homophones, homonyms, all these things which can create confusion. Symbols with different meanings, and it might so happen that there is one particular word which may have several meanings, and the receiver may perceive one particular meaning, whereas the sender was trying to talk about some other meaning. When we talk about large companies, often they have to deal with various countries, representatives of various countries. Now, if there is a translator in between and he is not able to translate what the message is being conveyed from one person to another, that may lead to faulty translations, again a barrier of communication. Unclarified assumption often happens when the receiver fails to formulate the feedback, and this is where we say feedback is very important. There are certain assumptions regarding the communication with respect to different interpretations, but it is not clarified. Then you have technical jargon, which is with respect to any kind of technical language which is being used. Again, it has to be perceived or it has to be acknowledged in the way it is meant to be, otherwise it may lead to a barrier. Body language and gesture decoding is also very important. Many a times when we are training people for the management, it is often said that body language is very important. The way your personality talks a lot about how you are going to be in a professional kind of a setup. Why? Because body language many a times can stop the other person from taking the message in the same way as it was meant to be, if the gestures, if the hand motions and all those things, or even the sight, for example, as something as simple as a vision is not up, it does not bring that kind of confidence in the receiver. Psychological barriers constitute the state of mind of both the sender as well as the receiver at the time of communication, which may affect the way in which the communication has to actually happen, or the effectiveness of the communication is hampered. Quickly, let us look at some of the psychological barriers. One, there is premature evaluation. That means even before the sender has communicated the entire message, the receiver is trying to evaluate what is being said. In the process, sometimes the entire portion or the entire message does not go through, and that is where we have premature evaluation. Lack of attention because the receiver is preoccupied because of some other issue, or maybe it is very difficult to gain the attention span, especially if you are addressing a set of people. It is very difficult to get the attention span of all these people together at once. There might be occasions where at least one person will ward off to some other zone, and they would not be concentrating on what the message is being portrayed. Loss by transmission and poor retention. If I have to make you people understand this, the best way to understand is Chinese whispers. What you begin with, you definitely don't land up with that. That is exactly what happens in an organizational setup, where the communication passes through various levels, and during this transmission there are certain inaccurate information which are probably added, or accurate information which is deleted, and generally the person who is trying to get the message, or the receiver of that particular message, is not having the capacity to retain the entirety of the message, which will further lead to the entire loss by transmission and poor retention. Then finally you have distrust. If the sender and receiver do not believe in each other, you would not want to even understand the message the way it is meant to be. Probably when you are talking about many situations that you would have even individually come across, if you do not have the capacity to trust the other person generally, and it is human psychology that you do not want to believe whatever the other person is saying, and this is what happens even in a professional setup. If there are any kind of professional clashes, or there is some lack of trust between two people, then automatically the message will not be conveyed in the way or the manner in which it is supposed to be. The organizational barrier is related to an organization's structure, the authority relationships that exists within that particular organization, and a lot of rules and regulations that have somewhere a direct or an indirect impact on the communication process. First, you have the organizational policy. If the policy itself does not support free flow of communication, then it may automatically hamper the effectiveness of communication that has to happen. The rules and regulations that exist within an organization, if to follow channel of communication, there are a lot of procedures, cumbersome procedures, or there are a lot of restrictions that are put upon. There is rigidity with respect to the rules that are there. Then automatically the communication that has to move from the sender to the receiver will be hampered. The status of the superior may give rise to a psychological distance, which will further affect communication and make it ineffective in nature. Complexity of the organizational structure, wherein you have a lot of members in the various hierarchy channels, that may also delay the communication process and at the same time distort it based on the kind of movement that has to happen from one level to another. There are certain organizations which actually facilitate free flow of communication. And how do they do that? They can have frequent meetings, they can always place a suggestion box, a complaint box, and you can have informal gatherings, and there is a lot of transparency in the operations. So this will facilitate free flow of communication. Now, in case these are not available, they themselves can create barriers for the free flow. Then there are personal barriers which can be attributed to the personality of an individual who belongs to a particular organization. First, you have the fear of challenge of authority. In this particular case, if superior feels a particular communication may affect his authority, he may suppress it. Again, when we talk about the entire process of communication, it moves through the hierarchical channel. So there might be chances that if the superior at any point of time he feels that any kind of message, if that moves across, it might challenge his authority in general, then he will not allow that kind of movement to happen, or he himself will become a barrier for that communication. Lack of confidence of superior on subordinate. Many a times it so happens that if the superior does not have the confidence that the subordinate can perform the task or can follow the instructions or can be considered competent, then the communication does not fall through. Unwillingness to communicate. Superiors sometimes are not willing to communicate with the subordinates and vice versa. Now this can be in terms of vertical communication or even sometimes lateral communication. Either ways, if they themselves are unwilling to communicate, and then there is a message which needs to move across for some particular reason, that will be somewhere stopped because of this unwillingness attitude of one particular person. And of course, finally we have the lack of proper incentives. If you have no incentives, sometimes it so happens that the individual does not have the desire to even work. He feels demotivated to perform his task, and further on it will affect his initiative to communicate with respect to all others in the organization. Quickly, let us try to understand the various possible ways in improving communication effectiveness. You can clarify ideas before communication. That means the problem to be communicated should be clear, it should be properly studied, it should be analyzed, and further it should be properly stated. Communicate according to the needs of the receiver. You should understand, or for that matter the sender should be able to understand the level of understanding of the receiver. He should be able to perceive to what extent the receiver can retain the information, and according to that need he is communicating. Consult others before communicating. This is especially with respect to any kind of formal information that needs to be processed. There should be proper planning for communication also, and even the subordinates should be involved, and there should be a system wherein there is acceptance and willingness. Be aware of languages, tone and content of the message. It is very important for the person or the sender who is formulating the message. He should understand that the criteria for selecting a particular language should be that it should be understandable to all the people to whom the communication is intended to, and at the same time it should not offend any kind of sentiments, and also it should evoke a response from the receiver's end. Convey things of help and value to the listener. It is very important for the sender to understand the interests and the needs of the listener, and he should also try to analyze whether the communication relates directly or indirectly to the listener. Ensure proper feedback. The communicator must ask questions, or he should acknowledge, or he should evoke a certain response from the receiver's end. He should make sure that there is feedback whether the proper message has been processed between the sender and the receiver. Communicate for present as well as future. Any kind of communication that happens within an organizational setup, it should not only meet the existing commitments but also it should aim at future goals. So somewhere you cannot have information bombardment. It cannot happen that constantly you're sending across any kind of messages. It should somewhere make sure that not only the present but as well the future course of actions related to that particular message are taken care of in the communication. Follow-up communications means that once the instructions have been dispersed, it is very important that the sender keeps on reviewing the instructions that has been sent across, and he should in the process remove any kind of hurdles in implementing these instructions. And finally, you should be a good listener. Patient and attentive listening will resolve any kind of problem that can arise in any kind of organizational or a non-organizational setup. It is very important for us human beings to have the capacity to listen. And here I would like to reinstate the difference between hearing and listening. Listening will sometimes it will evoke some kind of empathy towards the person who's trying to communicate, whereas hearing is just being present there. It does not help just being present, physically present and trying to gather information. Listening is when you are actually having some kind of an emotional aspect to whatever the content is being conveyed. That becomes very important in order to ensure that all the activities that occur in an organization are smooth and without any kind of conflicts.